You'll have heard both the words code and curse used plenty in pirate-themed movies such as Pirates of the Caribbean. A code, or more specifically the Pirate Code, was a series of rules and unwritten laws that pirates sailing the seas of the Caribbean needed to abide by, lest they meet brutal consequences at the hands of their crewmates. It is widely known that being works of fiction, these films tend to bend the truth on what is and what is not accurate in the world of the Golden Age pirates. So, did the Pirate Code really exist? This is one of the questions we're going to be answering in today's video, exploring real-life pirate ship rules and codes, and taking a look at the captains who enforce them. On the other hand, we have pirate curses, or superstitions, peculiar beliefs held by pirate crews after spending long nights and weeks at sea. Lifetimes spent on the waves avoiding the laws of civilized society would have impacted these people greatly, and as a result, it is thought that many pirates were very superstitious individuals. As well as exploring the code that pirates followed, we're also going to be taking the time in today's video to look into the superstitions and curses that impacted the lives of these pirates. Sit back and relax as we take a journey into the Golden Age to explore the rules and rumours that secretly governed the world of piracy. Welcome to Walk the Plank. The Pirate Code. Fact or fiction? Firstly, let's take a look at the Pirate Code. The Pirate Code may be misleading, as many pirate ships were known to follow their own set of rules and unwritten laws based on who was governing their ship at the time. Some pirates were blessed with lenient, freewheeling captains, whereas some crews needed to adhere to the strict manifestos of pirates who liked their vessels to be constantly ship-shape. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies have impacted, among with many other pirate tropes, our views of what these codes were and how they were implemented into pirate society. So just what were these pirate codes and how were they enforced? The pirates in these famous movies seem to follow a universal code known as the Code of the Brethren Court, mentioned initially in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. The code in the films is used to add a touch of justice and professionalism to pirates working with or conspiring against one another, and is often enacted at dramatic points in the plot. Surprisingly, the presence of a code is not something entirely fabricated for the story of the films. Pirates did indeed follow codes, but there wasn't one universal set of rules that all pirates needed to follow. Pirates such as Bartholomew, Black Bart Roberts, and Henry Morgan were amongst the first to implement codes of laws on board of their ships, but these were typically unwritten. Pirate codes, distinct to each ship and crew, could cover any number of things impacting life upon a pirate ship in many different ways. Many codes dealt with the issue of crime on board the ships, indicating what constituted an offence and how such an offence would be dealt with. It was the pirate codes that saw some pirates removed from their crews, marooned on abandoned islands in the middle of the Caribbean, for example. Other rules embedded in the codes discuss the taking of treasure, as well as how any stolen treasure would be divided amongst the members of a pirate crew upon capture. The rest of the laws within a given code may deal with ship safety or maintenance, typically dividing the work on board a ship. Certain rules may deal with preventing damage to the ship or repairing existing damage to ensure safety on long journeys at sea. Many of these early codes would go on to be extremely influential amongst pirate ships sailing in the Caribbean in the Golden Age. They were effective at keeping a pirate crew in check and soon spread to many ships and crews across the region. Black Bart, whose real name was Bartholomew Roberts, is commonly credited with having developed one of the first official working pirate codes. But who was he, and what exactly was the code? The Articles of Bartholomew Black Bart Roberts. We've covered Black Bart in passing on this channel before, exploring his life, death, and greatest successes in piracy. He was one of the most successful and wealthy pirates to ever set sail across the Golden Age, and his continuous successes saw him eventually amass a crew of over 200 men, whilst manning his own flotilla of pirate ships. Black Bart's code was inspired by a loose set of rules put together by his former captain, Howell Davis. He's thought to have written his code soon after he became a captain of his own vessel. The code he wrote is amongst the most extensive of all pirate codes written in the Golden Age, and as an example of what a typical code looks like, let's explore Black Bart's. The articles were as follows. 1. Every man has a vote in affairs of moment, has equal title to the fresh provisions or strong liquors at any time seized, and may use them at pleasure, unless a scarcity, not an uncommon thing among them, makes it necessary, for the good of all to vote a retrenchment. 2. Every man to be called fairly in turn by list on board of prizes, because over and above their proper share, they were on these occasions allowed a shift of clothes. But if they defrauded the company to the value of $1 in plate, jewels, or money, marooning was their punishment. If the robbery was only between one another, they contented themselves with slitting the ears and nose of him that was guilty and set him on shore, not in an uninhabited place, but somewhere where he was sure to encounter hardships. 3. No person to game at cards or dice for money. 4. The lights and candles to be put out at 8 o'clock at night. If any of the crew after that hour still remained inclined for drinking, they were to do it on the open deck. 5. To keep their piece, pistols and cutlass clean and fit for service. 6. No boy or woman to be allowed amongst them. If any man were to be found seducing any of the latter sex and carried her to sea disguised, he was to suffer death, so that when any fell into their hands as it chanced in the onslow, they put a sentinel immediately over her to prevent ill consequences from so dangerous an instrument of division and quarrel. But then here lies the roguery. They contend who shall be sentinel, which happens generally to one of the greatest bullies, who to secure the lady's virtue will let none lie with her but himself. 7. To desert the ship or their quarters in battle was punished with death or marooning. 8. No striking one another on board, but every man's quarrels to be ended on shore at sword and pistol. The quartermaster of the ship, when the parties will not come to any reconciliation, accompanies them on shore with what assistance he thinks proper, and turns the disputant back to back at so many paces distance. At the word of command they turn and fire immediately, or else the piece is knocked out of their hands. If both miss, they come to their cutlasses, and then he is declared the victor who draws the first blood. 9. No man to talk of breaking up their way of living till each has shared £1,000. If in order to this any man should lose a limb or become a cripple in their service, he was to have $800 out of the public stock, and for lesser hurts proportionately. 10. The captain and quartermaster to receive 2 shares of a prize. The master, boatswain and gunner, 1 share and a half, and the other officers 1 1/4. 11. The musicians to have rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights none without special flavour. Some of these rules may come as a surprise to you. Thanks to popular culture, Golden Age pirates have garnered a reputation of engaging in all sorts of typically frowned upon activities. Drinking, swearing and gambling are all good examples. Surprising then is the fact that Black Bart banned all forms of gambling on board his vessel. Pirates seem to be engaging in such activities could meet career-affecting consequences, which no person wanted to meet on board a pirate ship. See our video on pirate punishments and consequences for more information here. What may also come as a surprise is how fair Black Bart's rules seem to be in places. Many of the points in his code focus on making life on board the ship fair and safe for the pirates and the crew, stating that every man gets a fair say in electoral matters and taking treasure from merchant ships. That being said, Black Bart did impose his fair share of Golden Age violence to offending pirates. For example, pirates being forced to duel if they were caught fighting, or deserting pirates being either killed on the spot or left to die on a deserted island. Black Bart's career may have come to an end in 1722 at the hands of Challoner Ogle of the HMS Swallow when he was pierced in the neck with a grape shot, but his code lives on. The infamous pirate's set of rules would go on to be transferred to many other pirate ships who adopted his way of life and rules amongst their own crews. Many pirate crews were variations on Black Bart's themes, and it is these differences we're going to explore in the next section. Other codes and rules. Many later pirates would go on to adapt the early codes established by captains such as Black Bart to suit their own crews and needs. Captain John Phillips, a pirate captain who operated in the Caribbean around the time Black Bart was killed and just after, adopted his own set of rules for governing his crew. While Black Bart's code focused mainly on keeping his crew compensated and loyal, Phillips opted to rule with something of an iron fist. Almost all of the articles set out in his code seem to cover threatening consequences for those found guilty of committing an offence on board the ship, with little mention of sharing the spoils of piracy. Amongst the captain's code lie statements describing how pirates caught stealing will be marooned or shot, for example. If a pirate on board John Phillips' ship should start a fight with another pirate, there was no fair dueling involved. The pirate to start the altercation would simply be lashed 40 times with a cat o' nine tails. The same punishment awaited pirates who were caught smoking without a cap on their pipe below deck. Treasure shares were withheld from pirates who failed to keep their weapons clean, and pirates were even required to pay fines if their duties were not carried out to a high enough standard. Other pirates, such as Edward Lowe, were more lenient. His code, thought to have been written in collaboration with George Lowther in 1722, focused more on the sharing of wealth than other pirate codes from the Golden Age. He starts his code by stating that the captain gets 2 shares of the treasure, whilst everybody on board the ship gets 1. If a pirate was to lose a limb whilst fighting on board the ship, they would be awarded compensation in the form of 600 pieces of eight, and were allowed to retire from their duties if they felt the need. Pirates who proved their worth could be given upgraded quarters, and any pirate who could successfully identify ship sails approaching were rewarded with upgraded and advanced weaponry. He still implemented punishments for the breaking of rules, but these tended to be more ambiguous than those in other codes. Pirates caught offending, as Edward Lowe's code states, shall suffer what punishment the captain and majority of the company shall think fit. While it's likely he chose to maroon or execute offenders, there is no evidence to suggest this happened often. Pirate superstitions and curses. Contrary to the codes and laws of the sea, many pirates opted to follow rules set in place purely by superstition. The Pirates of the Caribbean films tend to focus heavily on these superstitions of sailing the seas in the Golden Age, and whilst it's exaggerated that these curses impacted crews in the ways they did in the film, belief in such things was indeed a part of daily life on board a pirate ship. Curses and superstitions, just like in the modern day, could bring either good luck or bad luck to a pirate who undertook a certain action or observed a certain event. Good luck can be found in many different beliefs, and pirates tended to hold such superstitions in high regard. For example, cats were considered to be good luck. A cat seen on board a ship would perhaps be seen to protect the crew or assist them in finding wealth. The same belief was held around swallows and dolphins. It was thought to bring good luck to wear gold hoop earrings, and pirates who hung horseshoes on board their ships were blessed with protection from storms. Other good luck superstitions included pouring alcohol on the deck before a voyage, throwing coins into the sea, and even spitting into the ocean. Bad luck curses were, unfortunately for the crews who followed them, much more commonplace. It was thought to be bad luck to begin a voyage on a Friday, the day Jesus Christ was crucified on, and this is a superstition that is thought to have reached even the navies and militaries of the time. There were several superstitions held around whistling, specifically that whistling would bring bad weather such as storms and choppy seas to the crew. Killing any animal that was thought to bring good luck would become a curse, casting bad luck on board the ship, and that bad weather would soon strike the ship in such a circumstance. To rename a ship was bad luck, as was to name a ship with a word ending in the letter A, and it was not believed to be a good idea to name a ship after a married woman. Some curses and superstitions even went so far as to increase the likelihood of, or even guarantee, death upon a pirate or his crew. Sighting a manta ray in the waters surrounding your ship was a very bad sign. It was thought that these harmless fish could attach themselves to the anchors of pirate ships and drag the whole crew down to a watery demise. This is reflected in one of their common modern nicknames, Devilfish. Throwing a stone out to sea when beginning a voyage was thought to mean certain death on that voyage, and if it was begun by stepping onto a ship with your left foot, the same fate would apply. So that was a rundown of the most common rules found in pirate codes, as well as the bizarre curses and superstitions that govern some pirates in another way entirely. Which of these codes and curses surprised you the most, and why? These codes are a great way of looking into what life may have been like on pirate ships. From these codes we can assume that life under pirates such as Captain John Phillips was much more brutal than sailing in the crew of Edward Lowe, for example. As more and more is uncovered about the codes of pirates and their crews, we will surely be able to learn more about what life was really like in the golden age of piracy. Thank you for watching this episode of Walk the Plank, and I'll see you next week for another one. Cheers!